wanted to talk to you about Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. Now this is a book duology written by Leigh Bardugo. And I decided that I was going to pick up the box set because I don't like reading a book unless I'm going to have the second book or the following, books in a series, because for me it's just like the waiting is just, I can't deal with waiting. So I ended up getting the box set, and I wanted to show you guys first the books because number one, they're so beautiful. And before I get into the spiel, I also want to let you know that I may have spoilers in here because I'm really passionate about this book. I really loved it. So I may give you guys more than you are bargaining for. So if you haven't read this book, maybe it's not the best video to watch about this. If you love this book and you've read it and you want to discuss it, then come on, because this is what we're going to do. Now, Six of Crows, for me, I didn't know anything about this world. I didn't know anything about the characters. I didn't know anything about Grisha or anything like that, because there is a trilogy that Leigh Bardugo wrote before these two books called the Grisha trilogy. Now there's 3 different books. I don't know them off the top of my head, but if you just type in Grisha trilogy, you'll see them all. I think it's like Shadow and Bone or something like that. Now, I started reading these books and I kind of wished that I would have read that series first, because there are some terminology and some names and stuff that she uses, that Leigh Bardugo uses, that are specific to this world. And so I wanted to have as much information as possible, so I kept going back and like referencing like the Grisha, the books beforehand. And it's so I personally, if I had to do it over, I would have read them first and then pick these 2 up. But you don't have to read those books to understand these. I am actually now going to start the Grisha trilogy, so I'm kind of going backwards. If you haven't purchased any of the books and you're interested in this world, in this series, I would say get that first, read those first, and then get these. But they're set ahead in the future from the Grisha trilogy. So it's kind of like a standalone, but we're still within the same world, so you don't have to worry about, not picking up the story. So first, let me show you the beauty of these books. So you saw that it's the pages are red and black. So Six of Crows has all black pages and Crooked Kingdom has red. When you open the books, Six of Crows has red and Crooked Kingdom has the black. Now, every time it changes, they have parts. So every time the part changes, there's this black page here, and then it goes into the new chapter. And every chapter has like a little bit of I want to say it's like a stamp, and then it tells you what person is going to be talking. So it's given by all the different characters' points of view. So while the story picks up right where the next, where the last chapter left off, even though it's being told by someone else, it's still the same story. So I don't know if that was confusing, but like in the first chapter, Juice is talking. The second chapter is Inesh, but it's still continuing the story, so you won't get lost there. Another thing is that there is one, I think it's part 4, that didn't have it's super petty, like this has nothing to do with anything, but in part 4, she was really consistent in making all of the parts have the black page here, and then this one, and then the title of the part. But in part 4, she didn't do that, and for me, it bugged me. I was like, what happened? And I think she did that in the second book as well. So nothing having to do with the story or that it would affect the story or anything like that. But for me, being a reader that like notices little details like that, like even, details like lettering and the little crow and embossed here, all those little details are important to me. So one little mistake like that, or something that was kind of like left out, bugged me. But it has nothing to do with the quality of the book, with the story, or anything like that. It's just me being Miss Petty. But other than that, I want to say I think she did amazing. I think when authors take the time to give you all these little details when they're packaging their book, Like, I totally am going to do that when I write my book. I want to make sure that I spend a little extra, even if I have to put some money out to make sure it's this beautiful. I'm totally going to do that. And the red and black pages, for more than one reason, that's exactly what I'm going for. One, to honor this book duology that is now my favorite, and for other reasons as well. But Six of Crows, like I said, it starts the story off. It's laying down the groundwork, and it's telling you what these characters are all about. So, long story short, it's about 6 kids that they're criminals. They're not like they're the kids have gone through everything in this world and have survived it and keep fighting, and so they know things that a lot of people shouldn't, but they do, because that's the only way they've known how to survive. So they get approached one of them gets approached by a city council member, and he wants Kaz Brecker to form a crew to do this heist, to get a hold of this drug that, if it falls into the wrong hands, can cause a lot of damage and bring a lot of chaos to the city. So Kaz agrees because he wants to get revenge on someone that created his circumstances. So he starts to put together a crew, and basically these guys are not best friends. They are just people that have special talents that Kaz has put together, and if they don't kill themselves, they might be able to pull off this job. So that's this first book. Now, there's a lot of other little pieces that you will learn about each individual character. And another thing about this is that it's told by the character's perspective. And like I said, the story keeps going very fluidly, but it's still being told by different characters at the same time. So you'll get Kaz's perspective, you'll get Inej, her perspective, and Nina's, and Matthias, and Wylan, and Jesper, and all the other people, you'll get their perspective. But this book, I didn't know what I was getting into. I fell in love with Kaz. Kaz Brecker is my favorite character. I wanted to adopt him and bring him home, and I wanted to hug him, but I knew he wasn't going to be the type of person that wanted to get hugged. But it's just so endearing. The story is very full. There's so many levels and elements to it. And even though there's a little bit of romance here and there, it's not like, that's not the story. And you get to really like see the story of like a person's perseverance and their spirit not giving up. And even though that, it's not the ideal situation for anybody, just being in a really horrible situation, trying to make the best of it, and still, like, even though things go wrong, even though things are not working the way you would want them to, still trying to push forward. And that resilience and that, like, go get him, like, kind of attitude is what makes Cass so lovable. Like, he doesn't give up. I mean, he's not the kind of guy that's just going to sit idle and let obstacles stand in his way. And so that was something I could really, really appreciate in this book. Now, when you get to Crooked Kingdom, she starts getting more into the story. Now, that one was laying down the groundwork. Like, that happens with all first books. They're kind of just talking to you about what the story's about the characters. And then here, you get more in depth. Like, you see why each character is the way that they are. You see the troubles that they go through. You see the struggles, and them building their friendship, because essentially it ends up being their friendship, like a family, and that strong bond that they form happens more in this book. And so I truly enjoyed it. I cried in this story. I did. I cried because it was one of those things where, like, I kept reading and something else would happen, and you're just like, what the heck? I didn't expect that. And then, they'll start giving you more, and then there's so many elements to it. There's so many levels to it. And I don't want to go and give too much away. However, I can sit here and do a video and talk about this. Like, I could tell you the whole story and talk about it and tell you what I loved and what I didn't love. But I don't want to do that. I want you to go out and read this book on your own. I want you to experience this, because after I finished reading this duology, like, I felt like, okay, what am I going to read now? Like, what's going to top this? Because I love the fantasy. I love the danger of it, the just the aspect of them having these, you know, different type of powers and being hidden and having to hide some of them had to hide their power, the Grisha, you know. So learning about that and putting that in parallels to like real life and things that we go through in real life, it was definitely something that I can really relate to, and I can relate to a lot of people that I've known in my life. I loved it. I loved it. I definitely think this is a book that everybody should have. Everybody should own this duology. And if you haven't read it, just please go out and get it, because you'll know what I'm talking about when you read this. And the characters, they're very different. I really liked how she didn't stick to one type of woman. You know, she gave you Inesh, who's like this very like skinny, wafy, kind of fragile, but she's really not fragile, you know, acrobatic type of a woman. And then you get Nina, who's super voluptuous and sensuous and loves to eat, and she's not scared of it, and she uses her curves and her sensuality to like just get herself and her point across, but not in a way that kind of like lowers her. And I mean, you have to read it. There's so many levels. Someone reading it might not like the fact that, you know, they're in, you know, pleasure houses and stuff like that, but at the same time, it's like if you knew the world that they were living in, like that's what they had to survive. They had to survive being, you know, orphaned and abandoned and, you know, sold off and being enslaved. And it has all of these levels, and, you know, post-traumatic stress and depression and all these different levels of everything. Like, honestly, like, I can't say enough about this book. And I know that Leigh Bardugo has another book coming out. I don't know that it's related directly to these characters, but they are Grisha related, because I read on her website that it was Welcome to the Grishaverse. So it has something to do with Grisha, but not necessarily maybe these characters. But I wanted to sit down and write Leigh Bardugo a love letter and just letting her know how much I love these books. And so because of that, and because I'm so passionate, and because I love these books so much, I wanted to share them with you and tell you, if you haven't read this book duology, get out there and read it. I mean, it's like, I want to talk to you about it. I want you to talk to me about it. I want you to tell me what you thought about these books. And as always, I would love any book recommendations. I love all kinds of books. I do tend to stick to YA because, like I said, my soul is that of a 16-year-old girl, and anything that's YA I love. I know there's a lot of judgment on that, but I'm 41 years old. I'm not ashamed to say that, and I read YA, I read fantasy. I love anything that's like out of the ordinary. I've had to read a lot of serious books for my life and my personal life and school and everything. So when I can read something that is of my choosing, I'm going to choose something that I enjoy. And I tend to go to like the new adult and YA and fantasy books, and there's nothing wrong with that. So as long as you enjoy a book and you have fun with it and you know, enjoy the story, read what you like, but read and enjoy it and have fun and share it with everyone. And so, as always, I'm gonna always wish that great books be in our future.